about it, and then sit down and code. The moment you drop your height, you will notice it. It may not be complete, you may not lose everyone, but you will lose some. Do everything you can to minimize that. It's hard enough to capture the attention of an audience. Once you have it, do not let go. Your slides are not your presentation. Your slides are aids. They are there to help you. They are not there to replace you. Here's a good test. If you can email your slides to a friend, and they can read through your slides and know what you're going to say, those are bad slides. Because they've replaced you. If they look and they say, oh, that's interesting, you have a chart there, you have some information, but they can't tie it together because you're not there. Your voice is necessary to bring it all together. If not, I submit to you, don't do a presentation. Respect your audience. Respect their time. If you can deliver the same message by email, why would you invite people to come fight through traffic, organize their day, so they can come and sit here and watch you speak? That's not respectful. If you can deliver your message by text, do so. Save people time, respect their time, respect your audience. Don't speak at your audience. Don't give a speech. Don't preach. Have a conversation. This is very different. Your audience, imagine yourself discussing a topic with your friends, right? When you discuss a topic with your friends, you're not standing there saying, okay, all of you sit down, be quiet, I'm going to... It doesn't work that way, right? It's much more informal. In my experience, the best way to deliver ideas is through a conversation, not a speech. Q&A is crucial to any conversation. Because without Q&A, it's one-directional, it's one-sided. What this means, Q&A, question and answer. It's the part where you say, does anyone have any questions? And then people go, right? It's that part. Q&A is crucial because this is where you get feedback from the audience. This is where the audience has the ability to ask you questions so they can fill in the blanks that you missed when you gave your presentation. Most importantly, this is your opportunity to learn. Some of the most important things that I've discovered were based on questions that the audience asked me about which I hadn't thought of. They looked at the information that I presented at an angle that I had never seen. And that pushed me to better understand the information. Right? So Q&A is crucial. Now, it's important as a speaker to create an environment that makes it easy for people to ask questions. A friendly environment. First of all, when a question is asked, I've actually seen someone do this. Watch. A question is asked. Now, what is the speaker doing? I mean, it's understandable what the speaker is doing. What they're doing is they've been asked a question, and immediately they start thinking about the answer. And it maybe helps them to look down, and so the net result of that is someone says, yes, and they ask the question and go, right? Not a very positive way of responding. Someone asks a question, be positive about it. Oh, great question. If you need, let me think about it for a moment. It's okay to take time. It's okay to be quiet. But body language matters. If you respond with this, the other people that were planning on asking you a question may decide maybe today is not the right day to do that. Second thing that I found very useful. When you do respond to a question, at the end of it, by the way, this isn't a rule, this isn't my experience. At the end of responding to the question, ask the person who asked the question if they're satisfied with your answer. The reason for this is it's very easy to misunderstand a question. And people are polite. They will wait for you to finish. They won't interrupt and say, wait, what you're talking about wasn't at all what I asked. They will wait for you to finish blabbing and then kindly sit down. They are dissatisfied. They sit down dissatisfied. Remember, it's all about the audience. Make sure that their curiosity is satisfied. Specifically, of course, about the topic you're talking about. Now, what did I just do?
Question and answer.
You just turn.
I forgot what I was going to say. And this happens. This happens all the time. And when it does happen, contrary to what I just did, don't announce it to the audience. I did it for a reason. Don't announce it to the audience. Try to just keep going. No one's going to notice that you skipped the slide. No one's really going to know. As long as the overall story fits, you're okay. Don't worry about the individual details. Also, really important, we all know how to start. You get up there, you talk. Okay. Not everyone knows how to finish. How many presentations have you been to where you weren't sure whether it was over or not? Is he done? Am I clap? No? I've seen it. It happens all the time. Be very clear about the finish. Remember, the presenter is
He's running out of time.
out of time. The presenter is running the show. Make the beginning and end very clear. The audience is looking to you to know when to clap, when to leave. Make sure to be sensitive to that. This is a call to action. All of you, I encourage you, always, when you can, show your passion. Tell your story. Talk about what you love. But always, always be prepared. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I have to go to the microphone probably, yeah.
Sure, whatever. Just, I'll hear you. I'll repeat your question. Don't worry.
Okay, wonderful. First of all, thank you for the presentation. It was really, really nice, at least for me. What I would like to ask you, eloquence is a sign of what?
Well, eloquent. Okay, so the question is, I'll repeat the question. So the question was, eloquence, what is it a sign of? Was that your question? Correct. So remember, there was a slide that said, speak only about what you know. I don't know. No, I mean, honestly, that's more of a psychological question, I think. The closest I can do to maybe still leave you dissatisfied, but at least get you a little bit of the way there, is to suggest the following. People who truly understand what they're talking about can usually explain what they're talking about. You guys know, there's a famous quote, can't remember who said it. He said, I don't understand what I cannot build. You guys know this quote? It's famous. Which makes sense, right? You can't build something unless you know it completely. I would embellish that to suggest that you don't know anything you cannot explain. If you can't take your knowledge and put it into an elegant stream of understanding, then I submit that there are missing gaps, and you don't have a holistic understanding of this information. So as far as, I know that this has probably left you dissatisfied, but this is as far as I would go. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah, go for it. Please. By the way, if you want to ask a question, just go now, and then just ask. Yes, sir.
First of all, let me thank you for the awesome presentation. It's nice to see somebody, one more person to encourage the culture of public speaking, a fellow person, so to say.
Thank you.
My question is, do you think, specifically in your field, there is a demand for professionals teach public speaking and presentation skills. I mean, what are your observations, thoughts, you know, as much as you can fit in a small answer.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much. That's a great question. Short answer, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, you think about what a software engineer does. One of the biggest challenges, in fact, to any software engineer is to be able to speak about what it is that they do with other engineers, which is kind of easy because they speak the same language, but also to those who are not. This is key. I think one of the things that really, if you look at the most successful engineers out there, one of the things, and again, just observation here, one of the things that has really differentiated them from the other engineers is that they're able to speak to non-engineers about highly technical knowledge. Be able to do that. Take a complex project with all of its complexity, with its algorithms and code and memory leaks and all of these things, and translate that into a language that an MBA can understand, which is really difficult, because you know. Do that, and you will see a shift in your career. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you again for the wonderful speech.
Yeah. Awesome.
About the case where you are going to have a presentation where your bosses are not there, you are doing it online, let's say. So they're not going to see you, they're not going to see your face, your smile, and all your shows. So how are you going to replace this big hole doing that kind of presentation?
Great question. So each presentation comes with its own challenges. There might be a presentation you give where the projector is broken, so you don't have visuals to help you. There may be a case where the mic is broken and you have to yell or speak up. There may be a situation where you're on the phone and you're speaking to a team, right, and people can't see you. In all of these cases, what I would suggest you do is take a lot of what I say still applies. Think about the slide having to do with speaking. Avoiding, if you guys have ever been on a conference call, you know how annoying that gets. When someone gets on there, so just mute your mic and unmute it when you're ready to talk. Right? A lot of the same things apply. Again, if even over the phone, if what you're discussing is a topic that you actually care about, you can still capture them. But clearly, when you're looking at someone, that's a whole different story. I submit to you. I agree. But you can still make the best of the worst situation, I guess would be my answer to you. Is that fair? John. What else? Yo. Yes, sir. On susuz. Hayır. Ayo. Antonum. Ուրեմն ես մի կոնֆետ պատք տոկոսենք հաշվում վրայից։ Facebook-ով ընկերենք, ընկերացի կապը պահպանենք, մի կոնֆետ ես կդամ։ Email կոմպրես կանեմ, կուղարկենք։ Այջան, լսում։
Mind and not to listen to the speaker every 7 seconds. So my question is, it's quite natural how to win the challenge, I mean, how to keep the attention every 7 seconds.
Wow, that's a really interesting question. Thank you. That's excellent. Thank you for representing women everywhere. No, that's great. So I wasn't aware of the 7 seconds, mainly because I'm not trained in the art of speaking. Again, I'm speaking purely from experience. How do you capture an audience for more than 7 seconds? I don't know. I've never had the problem of the 7 seconds.
Because you're technical.
Probably. Although this talk wasn't really technical, was it? And I don't, maybe I've misjudged you guys, but having looked at you carefully during my talk, I'm pretty sure I've had at least some of you for more than 7 seconds. And I don't think it's because I'm an amazing speaker. In fact, I have lots of problems. I think it's just because I'm hopefully talking about things you care about. I see this as watching a movie. How do people maintain attention when watching a movie? Right? You watch a movie for more than 7 seconds. Why? Because the movie has a story plot. It captures you. It grips you, right? It not only speaks to you psychologically, where you're understanding what you're seeing, but emotionally, right? You care about an actor who's about to get killed by the big wolf or what, right? There's an emotional aspect to it. You are involved in the movie. I would submit to you that a talk has some of those elements. That you have to, when speaking to an audience, not only speak to them at an intellectual level, but also to a certain extent an emotional level. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for the inspirational speech.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye. And your lecture speech. It's quite interesting. Thank you for that. And my question is related actually with the Bruce Lee style, one of my favorite martial artists. As you mentioned, it's not nice when teachers or professors turn their back
Yes.
and start to write. But as I study, I experience both.
Yep.
So when they turn and write, or they already prepare their presentation and they just stop. Actually, I prefer like when they write because there are lots of formulas or lots of theories in my studies.
Sure.
So, as you said, not to turn back and not to write on the board, what would be the alternative strategy for that?
So, great question, and you make very excellent points there. I want to be clear about what I said, or I should clarify what I said. There's a difference between writing on the board but continuing to engage with an audience. In other words, as you're writing a formula, or at least a piece of it, you kind of turn around and you keep people engaged with what you're writing. Another form of presentation is where you turn around and you basically write the entire presentation on the board and then turn around, talk, and then turn around and write the rest of the presentation on the board. I guess what I mean to say is this. I have no problem with writing things on the board doing a presentation, but there's nuance. You have to still be aware of the audience sitting behind you. And if all you're doing is thinking about writing on the board, and you're not engaged with them, 7 seconds, right? Probably less. You will lose them. And it's a fine line, and it's something that I think can only be developed by doing it a lot. So the more you teach, and the more you have this experience, I think the better you get at figuring out exactly where that line is. Did that satisfy? Yes, sir.
Actually,
An example, by the way, of asking, did you notice? He wasn't satisfied with the question, I went back to him. If I had just said, okay, and then moved on, he would still be left dissatisfied. He would leave this place saying, Ruben never answered my question, this is bullshit. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm not going to leave because I like you.
Go ahead, yeah. Sure, I like you too.
For next Candy, I think.
Wait.
I don't actually like the presentation. I actually like when professor turn their back and start to write on the board.
Okay.
Because I am able to copy that for my notes. So it's quite useful for me to have those notes.
Okay.
Because I see the whole process, like when he starts to speak and write. So the process of it is quite important, and I like not copy or write it.
That's very interesting. Okay. So, I mean, the different people learn different ways. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I won't argue with that. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah, you're good. Yes, sir.
Thank you. For the great presentation, you mentioned that one should know his audience, right?
Yes.
So how are you supposed to know your audience if you are the first time in the stage and you don't know?
Your best guess.
Sorry?
Guess. Estimate. So you're right. You don't always know, but you can guess. So give me an example of what you mean, and I'll see if I can figure it out.
It's very difficult to give an example.
No, I think he wants to say if you have maybe like 1,000 or 2,000 people in a
Ah,
you know,
okay.
some-
Well,
yeah.
let's
Yes.
take this event as an example.
Perfect, yes. Okay, great question. Okay, so first of all, it's no coincidence that this event is held at AUA. I wanted to speak in English, and I held this with Autumn's permission, Autumn Pajan's permission, at AUA. So right away, I intuitively understood that because it's advertised through AUA, and I'm mostly advertising to engineers who speak English, that it's probably going to be okay for me to speak in English. Rather than a venue, which has happened to me, by the way, where I misjudged, spoken in English, and lost the audience because they weren't fluent. Right? So that's one example. As far as the content, you can, it really depends on what the content is. So the content today was fairly broad and not highly technical. So I didn't have to focus too much in that regard. But suppose you're talking about software engineering, right? Do you show code or do you not show code? I think it's absolutely crucial that you know your audience. Because if you don't and you show code, everyone's going to just go home, right? So it's a difficult question to ask, but my best answer to you would just be estimate your best guess. But put an effort into guessing. Don't just, in a cocoon, make your slide and then hope for the best. Fair enough? Thank you. Yes, sir. Sorry. So I apologize. This is my mistake. So the question was, I said that you should know your audience so you can tailor your presentation to your audience. And the question was, what happens if your audience is very broad, right? Then it's difficult to, how do you know a broad audience? And so my answer was, estimate and do the best you can to cast a wide net. Yes, sir.
Before you started the presentation, you were saying that in the end of any presentation, you are getting something new.
Yes.
And I'm really agree with you from my personal experience. And your presentation almost done. I would like to ask you what you get after this presentation for your personal.
Great question. So first of all, I got a chance to speak with you. It's no small thing, by the way, guys. It's no small thing to get people of your caliber into a room at one time and be able to speak to you. It's kind of a huge deal for me. It really is. I'm honestly, legitimately honored that you guys have come to my talk. And I think, and I hope, that we can build a connection, Facebook, email, what have you, and sort of hang on to this, right? And now thanks to this talk, by the way, my network is now much more vast, which I would argue as a professional and as a person, as a human being, is absolutely crucial. So thus far, now as far as technical knowledge, I learned about the 7-second rule. Didn't know about it, just learned it. Kind of cool, right?
You also learned the new solution.
And I learned, thank you, sir, thank you. Yeah, exactly. I learned more solutions for how to solve the puzzle, right? Exactly, thank you. Does that satisfy you? Great. Yes, sir.
A very practical speech delivered in a very user-friendly manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
About talking slowly, I get the point why you say that. I mean, when you learn to speak, you tend to need to slow down always. At some certain level, from my own experience, I think you need to adjust the speed. For example, at some points you need to be very slow and very distinctive, while at other parts of your speech, it might need to go at high speed and just rushing. And it'll be less monotone and keep the speech fresh and the audience excited. What do you think about that?
Great comment. Fantastic comment. I absolutely agree with the fact that you don't want to keep your words sort of monospaced. Is that the right term for it? Equally spaced throughout the entire talk. Because then your talk will always, that won't work, of course, right? So I agree with you 100% that you definitely want to adjust the speed. The problem that I was referring to was a problem that I personally honestly have. And it's a problem I've been working on. And so far, but I do practice, I promise you. is often when I get excited, I start talking like this, and I start talking about all kinds of things, and the problem with this is, it's one thing when you're speaking with a person live, it's another thing when you're speaking with an audience. And I guess, again, you have to find and strike the right balance and find that niche. I tend to have a problem of going way too fast, and I lose the audience because of it. So, again, just based on my experience, I like to always err on going slower than faster. Is that awesome? Yes, I saw you.
Thanks for the presentation.
Yeah.
I want to ask, what do you suggest to people who are afraid or nervous of asking questions after presentations or something?
Oh, that's a really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That's see, learning something. Yes. Oh, I said like kids. So,
Drink some water.
so the question was, if you're an audience member, not the speaker, but the audience member, and you're nervous about asking a question, how do you get over that nervousness and actually ask the question? Wow.
I can give a suggestion.
Yeah, if you have a suggestion.
Once a professional speaker
Uh-huh.
was teaching us how to give a speech.
Yeah.
So he told us that if you feel nervous, given that you are the speaker,
Uh-huh.
but I think it will apply also if we are nervous
I know what this
asking
is
a
going.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, you imagine the people in front of you are in
their underwear. Yeah, that never worked. Has anyone tried this? Wait, hands up if you've tried imagining people in their underwear and then you're like, oh. Really? It works? So, wow, you're the first person I've ever met. That's awesome. Wait, 2 people. Oh, I'm sorry, you too?
It
And
works in the
also-
office with your supervisor when you're
down the closed. Wow, okay. Okay. Enough people, there's enough consensus to suggest that your job is to imagine the speaker. I'm going to skip this talk. You understand. Thank you so much. That was a great question. Yes, sir. Hi, Joe. Session Akos. I shot the head. Okay. The question was, let's take an idea. In the current day and age where people are busy and they have iPhones and they have Facebook and they have all these different things, what is the optimal amount of time that you should give your speech to make your delivery of your message optimal? Did that capture your? Okay, great. That's a hard, difficult question. I would say this. You guys ever heard of TED.com? So you know TED, okay. So the people who run TED.com are brilliant as far as giving speeches, right? And the people who obviously give speeches at TED are brilliant as well. So if you're looking to model sort of perfection, definitely TED is your model, right? Maybe that's what you need to go for. But the problem is I think that's kind of cut and dry too, because it really depends on the message you're trying to deliver. If you're talking about something highly technical, for example, I've been known, and I'm guilty of this, of talking 3 hours straight. I didn't know I could do this, but apparently I can, and I do. And the reason why I do this is because I'm talking about something highly technical. I'm talking about code, we're running code, we're debugging, we're doing this and that, right? So, remember, engineering. Right? Okay, so we're doing all this crazy, and there's no way I could fit that kind of a talk into, what is it, 22 minutes? What's 10? 20? 18 minutes, thank you. 18, no way, right? It's just, it doesn't work. So, I think you should, it's part of, when I said tailor your message to your audience, this is the answer. All this was meant so that I could just tell you this one thing, by the way. I finally arrived at the answer. When you're tailoring your message to fit your audience, this is one of the things you should take into account. So when you're tailoring your message, the part of tailoring your message and simplifying your message and optimizing your message for the audience, part of that exercise is imagining how much time should be allocated for this endeavor. So, again, I left you completely dissatisfied because all I said was, it depends. Unfortunately. Is that okay? Do you forgive me?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Yes, this one.
Oh, first, how many of you have TED Pro account? Cool. Actually, on TED's website, I just want to continue. Hello. Oh, I just want to continue Ruben's topic on the time. Well, it's mostly about from 18 to 20 minutes. But when you have a TED professional account, you actually can see topics for about an hour and a half. You know about that? No. Yes, because they have very specific topics like about quantum physics or very, very, very specific nanotechnologies. And if you don't have a pro account, you won't have that type of topics to watch. But the problem is, Խնդիրը նրանում է, որ իրականում ոչ թե ժամն է խնդիր, օրինակ ես Ռուբոյի դասախոսությունից մեկ եկել եմ, որ 3 ժամանոց է, բայց եթե դիմացի audience-ը իսկական հետաքրքրություն ունի, օրինակ ես չունեի JavaScript է խոսում, բայց ես զզվում եմ JavaScript-ից։ Ինքը մեկը չի հասկանա քեզ, հա։ Իսկ եթե ասենք audience-ը սիրում է JavaScript, ինքը կարող է 5 ժամ էլ լսի, մանավանդ թե Ռուբոն է։ Նույն ես որ էլի կապված է այսօր audience-ի հետ նայել։ Հա, իսկ եթե TED Pro account ունես, գնայես որտեղ տարեկան փող ես ուսանում։ Thank you.
Hi, Joe.
I had a question about follow-up. So I'd love to share your talk with people, right, outside of this room.
Sure.
Now, your presentation is, in fact, not shareable in the same way, just because it's incomplete. Sharing the video maybe is a bit more impractical, because it requires the audience, the person I'm sharing with, to actually sit there and watch, and they don't have you live. Do you, at least for certain talks, prepare something that's shareable for your audience to take home with them?
Great question. So there's best practice, and then there's me. Sorry. So the first thing is always repeat the question. So the question was, I mentioned that slides should not tell the story, right? Slides are merely aids to help you tell your story, right? So the slides do not stand on their own. And what Nessa suggested is that this is actually a hindrance when you're trying to share your talk with the world. Because after the talk happens, what people will often do is share the slides. Why do they do this? So that people can presumably go read the slides and know what you said. Right? I don't do that. I prefer to actually share the video, of which I have. And by the way, one of the things that I found to be immensely important is to videotape myself and then watch myself after. And ask myself a very basic question. Would I go to my own talk? And if not, I have work to do. And if so, I still have work to do. Because the next talk has to be better than the previous. So, but I'm not going to dodge the question. The question was, how do you make your presentation shareable? Honestly, I think it's far more important for me to put the audience, the live audience first, rather than worry about who might receive an email later. That's secondary to me.